It's unbelievable to comprehend what they're able to do. And that really is the key to the sled dog success, is that they're just working on an entirely different scale than we human athletes are.
How fast can they go?
In the Iditarod setting, which is nearly 1,000 miles race, it's not a matter of how far they can go, it's how far is it smart to go and how far can they go sustainably. Sustainably would be the key word here. So on a really good trail, good conditions, we're going to be looking at probably 120, about 120 miles a day would be a normal, faster trail winning pace.
You're kidding me. And through snow. I mean, it's not like they're running on a treadmill.
And it blows your mind every single time. And that's a pretty phenomenal athlete. And there's a few things that allow the sled dogs to do that. First of all, the canine in general has the largest heart proportionate to its body mass of any mammal out there. So they're already starting with a heart that's bigger than any other mammal. And surprisingly, mammals' heart size is pretty constant relative to their body size, of course, everywhere from a mouse to a whale. It's a pretty constant heart size. And I think it starts at 0.06 of the animal's body mass, can be built to 0.08, whereas canines start at 0.08 and can build it up to 1% of their body mass. So they have a bigger heart than pretty much any mammal. The second thing that really allows the canine, aka the Alaskan Husky, to be such a phenomenal traveler is their ability to process calories. First of all, a dog system runs on fats as opposed to a human that we run more off of sugar, right? So we're looking at carbs. You look at a marathoner's diet, and it's very simple sugars. It's those fast carbs that are going to hit their system. And when a marathoner talks about bonking at the end of a marathon, it's when they run out of blood sugar, and now their body's having to convert stored fat into energy. That's a very inefficient process for a human. A dog system is designed to run on fats, and they're incredibly efficient at either consuming fats and instantly turning it into energy, or storing that fat and then switching and using stored fat for energy. Lastly, a 55-pound sled dog can easily burn and then also consume and replace 12,000 calories a day. 12,000 calories a day. So we think of a crazy human athlete, let's say Michael Phelps, will hit 12,000 calories in a day. But he's not a 55-pound animal either, right? So when you look at the calories per kilo of animal, their ability to consume and then process and then utilize those calories makes them the ultimate endurance animal.
So if we translated that to people, say a 150-pound guy, that's like 36,000 calories.
To get 36,000 calories, you'd be looking at almost 10 pounds of straight fat. Because a pound of fat, I think, is 3,500 calories. It's unbelievable to comprehend what they're able to do. And that really is the key to the sled dog success, is that they're just working on an entirely different scale than we human athletes are.
You usually have what, 12 dogs in a race. Do you change up the order, or are they always in the same place?
That changes on on an hourly basis, honestly. So I do have dogs that are right and left sided. There are dogs that run way better on the right or the left than they do the other side. And that's less common than dogs that will run better forward or back in the team. As you get into the front of the team, it is the most difficult position in the lead position, both physically and mentally. Physically, because they're the ones having to drive the pace. There's no visual reference of how hard they need to go. The only input they have is from how hard they're pulling on the line behind them. So they're always having to put an extra 10% on the line to keep that line tight. If the team's going down a hill and then up the next hill, it's like a dog team is a long item. So while half the team is still going down this hill at a greater speed, the front half of the team is having to sprint up the next hill at a much faster speed. So it is harder for the lead dogs physically. Also, if you run it all, if you draft off of another runner, they provide a wind break, right? And humans run more erect. Obviously, we have more surface area. We create more wind resistance. But look at Tour de France cyclists. They line up because it is easier to be in that slipstream of the cycles ahead of you. And it's the same with the dog team. They kind of have that decreased wind resistance. And then finally, if there's any soft snow on the trail, the dogs in the front are the ones having to put those first tracks in the snow, and it gets easier for each pair of dogs behind them. Now, when you get to the back of the team, the dogs right in front of the sled, they oftentimes have to be a little bit more agile, particularly on twisty, windy trails as we're going around these turns. those back dogs will often have to jump over the center line and get over on the same side as their buddy to avoid an obstacle or the soft snow on the trail. And then as soon as we've completed that turn, they have to get back on their own side so that they can allow their partner to do the same thing, jump over the line when we take a sweeping left-hand turn. So those back dogs, not only are they having to pull forward, but they're having to be quick on their feet and jumping side to side and a little more activity there. So now that we understand that there are easier positions, generally in the middle of the team, and harder positions, generally at the ends of the team, I'm constantly rotating dogs so that nobody gets stuck in the hardest position for too long of a period of time. And this is also where you're judging attitude, how they're doing. And it's like, man, this dog, they need to have an easy day today. So I'm going to put them in the middle of the team. I may not even clip up their harness, just put them on their collar so that they can jog along and not actually feel like they need to be pulling anything or not allowing them to pull, because if that harness is hooked up, they will be leaning and pulling. So it's essentially putting them in neutral so that they can have a recovery run versus, actually working hard. Other dogs, man, they're on it today. They're all perky and lively and, they've got that extra energy. Go ahead, take on that harder position in the lead today. So we're constantly moving dogs around in the team for each run and then also throughout the run. You may start out a run and it's going to be 1.5 feet of soft snow. I'm going to put my biggest, tallest lead dog up there because it's going to be easier for him to walk through that deep snow, break the trail. 3 hours later, we may have popped out onto the Farewell Lakes, and now it's wind blowing, slick ice, and not really a trail to follow. So now I'm going to put my brainy little female leader up there who's really good at taking those voice commands and steering, while my big meathead, I'm going to put him in the back because since he was good at breaking through the deep trail, he may not be the one that's good at having to answer a whole lot of questions one after the next as I'm giving him the voice commands to steering.
Okay, I always hear the Iditarod described as the hardest race in the world. Is it really that hard, or is that kind of marketing hype?
I would have a hard time saying that's the hardest thing in the world. I mean, that's a pretty dang bold statement. Look at the things that humans have survived or done, right? And in most of the most extreme things humans have done, they have not done it by choice, or they've done it in a situation where the other choice was death. But yeah, it is physically challenging in a way that's different than, let's say, like an Ironman triathlon, which is a common thing that humans do electively. That would probably be more difficult in an acute way in a short term. All right, the next 12 or 14 or 18 hours, I don't know how long it takes, is going to be absolutely brutal. But the other thing that they do in that time frame is you put your head down, you don't think, you just go, right? And you know that that end is in sight. It's all done in less than a day. The Iditarod is drawn out over such a long period of time, and there's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of like, I don't know if I can actually pull this off or if I can physically do this as an individual myself. It's 50 below zero. And while the dogs have good hair and they're designed for this and they're burning all these calories, which produces a lot of heat, I am not developed to live in 55 below zero temperatures. So your feet are freezing and there's this uncertainty. And probably one of the more similar settings to put it in that case would be more like special forces training. Let's take, Hell Week for SEALs. That would probably be a more similar setting where it's like, I don't know if I can complete this. And there's the real fear, not that you would necessarily die. Of course, that is an option, but that you might not pass. It's more of a pride thing. I may fail here. There's the uncertainty of I have to make decisions. And I don't know, even though I think I made the best decision, I don't know if that'll be enough to accomplish what I have in front of me. And then also there's the tactical decisions that we have to deal with, and you're getting hit with one decision after the next, after the next, after the next. And it starts to play with you on a kind of an emotional level, especially when you're on low sleep, very, very low sleep. And sleep deprivation has to be one of the most, painful things, or it is the most painful thing about this. And it hits humans very, very hard. When you're on day 7 and not sleeping, you're not yourself. And all your facade and ego, even the stuff you didn't think you had a facade or an ego or an image that you project, all of that comes away and you are down to just you. And if you're not comfortable with who you are at the very core, it's a terrifying situation for a lot of people.